My name is Mark. I'm 45 years old, and I run an Italian restaurant called Tuscan Sun in Napa Valley, California. Sarah, my wife, is 42 years old and the soul of our restaurant, or at least she was. She was in charge of the day-to-day operations, from menu design to staff management to dealing with suppliers. Together, we have worked hard for 20 years, growing from a small pizzeria to the little-known restaurant in Napa Valley that it is today. Sarah has always been a charismatic woman. She has long blonde hair, blue eyes, and when she smiles, she can light up the whole restaurant. She is warm and outgoing, and many of the restaurant's regular customers come just to see her. As for me, Mark, I'm probably not as interesting. I prefer to stay in the kitchen, working on new recipes or discussing ingredient combinations with my head chef, Jean-Pierre. Jean-Pierre is a Frenchman, 38 years old, very talented, and his exquisite and delicious cooking has added a lot to our restaurant. My name is Mark. I'm 45 years old, and I run an Italian restaurant called Tuscan Sun in Napa Valley, California. Sarah, my wife, is 42 years old and the soul of our restaurant, or at least she was. She was in charge of the day-to-day operations, from menu design to staff management to dealing with suppliers. Together, we have worked hard for 20 years, growing from a small pizzeria to the little-known restaurant in Napa Valley that it is today. Sarah has always been a charismatic woman. She has long blonde hair, blue eyes, and when she smiles, she can light up the whole restaurant. She is warm and outgoing, and many of the restaurant's regular customers come just to see her. As for me, Mark, I'm probably not as interesting. I prefer to stay in the kitchen, working on new recipes or discussing ingredient combinations with my head chef, Jean-Pierre. Jean-Pierre is a Frenchman, 38 years old, very talented, and his exquisite and delicious cooking has added a lot to our restaurant. My wife, Sarah, is in charge of the front of the house, and I am in charge of the kitchen. We complement each other very well. At least, that's what it seems like to outsiders. Things started to go wrong 6 months ago. I began to notice some changes in Sarah. She became more dressed up than ever before, spending more time in front of the mirror every day. She started buying sexy dresses that I had never seen her wear before and wearing strong perfume. When she came home in the evening, she always stayed up late, hugging her mobile phone and constantly checking social media, with a smile on her lips that I couldn't read. At first, I didn't pay much attention. I thought, maybe women are naturally attracted to beauty, or maybe the restaurant business was doing so well that she was under a lot of pressure and needed some personal space. But as time went on, I began to feel that things were far from as simple as I thought. Sarah started working overtime frequently, sometimes not returning home until late at night. She said there was just too much to do at the restaurant. I believed her, because I knew that running a restaurant was really hard work. But gradually I noticed that the time she worked overtime always coincided with Jean-Pierre's finishing time. On a few occasions, I went to the restaurant in the evening to bring her a midnight snack, only to find that she and Jean-Pierre were the only ones there. They were sitting at the bar, drinking red wine and whispering to each other. The atmosphere was so ambiguous that it made me feel uncomfortable. Sarah would always look a little flustered when she saw me, and then quickly end her conversation with Jean-Pierre. I began to suspect that there was something going on between Sarah and Jean-Pierre. To confirm my suspicions, I began to spy on Sarah. I noticed that she always set a password on her phone, and I never had the chance to see her messages. She always took her phone with her when she showered, for fear that I might touch it. One night, Sarah said she was going to a party with friends and wouldn't be back until late. I pretended to believe her, but after she left, I secretly followed her in my car. I saw that Sarah's car was not heading towards the city center, but towards a motel in the suburbs. I pulled over and watched from a distance as Sarah walked into the motel. My heart sank. I was almost certain that Sarah was here to meet a lover. I didn't have the courage to go in and catch her in the act, for fear of seeing the scene I most dreaded. I just sat in the car silently, smoking, waiting for Sarah to return. Time passed by minute, and my heart ached more and more. I couldn't believe that my beloved wife would betray me and our marriage. At 2 a.m., Sarah finally came back. She looked very tired, but there was a trace of excitement and satisfaction on her face that I had never seen before. She didn't notice my car parked by the roadside and drove straight home. When she arrived home, Sarah fell asleep. I, however, was unable to sleep. I lay in bed, my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, my mind a blank. The next morning, Sarah got up, washed up, and went to work in the restaurant as if nothing had happened. I watched her back and felt a wave of nausea. I knew that I couldn't go on like this. I had to expose Sarah for what she really was and make her pay for her betrayal. The opportunity soon arose. The annual Napa Valley Food Festival was about to begin. The Food Festival is one of the most important festivals in Napa Valley and attracts tourists from all over the world every year. For our restaurant, the Food Festival is also the most important business opportunity of the year. Our restaurant has made careful preparations for the Food Festival. Sarah is in charge of the booth layout and publicity for the Food Festival, and I am in charge of the menu design and ingredient procurement for the Food Festival. Jean-Pierre has also designed several new dishes for the Food Festival, hoping to surprise customers. The day of the festival opened with clear skies and sunshine. The central square of the Napa Valley was packed with people. Our restaurant's booth also attracted a lot of customers and business was booming. Sarah was wearing a red dress and was busy greeting customers at the booth with a big smile on her face. She looked radiant, as if what happened last night had never happened. I looked at Sarah and my heart was filled with anger and sadness. I decided that today, on the stage of the Food Festival, I would expose Sarah's misdeeds and bring her to ruin. I found my good friend Dave. Dave is a lawyer and our restaurant's legal advisor. I told Dave about Sarah's infidelity and asked him for advice. Dave listened to my story in silence for a moment, then said to me, "Mark, I know you're in pain right now, but you must stay calm. Acting on impulse won't solve anything and will only make things worse for you. Dave, you don't know how much pain I'm in. I can't stand Sarah's betrayal. I must make her pay," I said, agitated. Dave sighed and said, "Mark, if you really want to get back at Sarah, I have a plan. But this plan may cost you a lot. Are you sure you want to do it?" "I'm sure," I said without hesitation. "I'm willing to do anything to get back at Sarah." Dave nodded and told me his plan. His plan was simple: to expose Sarah and Jean-Pierre's affair on the stage of the Food Festival in front of everyone. "Mark, are you sure you want to do this? It will ruin you and Sarah, and the restaurant's business will plummet," Dave advised me again. "I've already made up my mind," I said. "I can't let Sarah get away with this. I want her to pay for her betrayal." Dave saw that I was determined and stopped trying to persuade me. He helped me gather the necessary evidence, including a video of Sarah and Jean-Pierre checking into a motel room and some flirtatious text messages between Sarah and Jean-Pierre. The afternoon of the Food Festival, the square was getting more and more crowded. Business was also getting better for our restaurant. Sarah seemed in a good mood and kept busy at the stall. I took a deep breath and walked backstage. I told the host that I had something important to announce and hoped to borrow the stage. The host saw that I was a sponsor of the Food Festival and did not refuse my request, agreeing to let me speak on stage. I walked to the center of the stage and picked up the microphone. The people in the square all quieted down and looked at me curiously. "Ladies and gentlemen, friends, hello," I said into the microphone. "I am Mark, the owner of the Tuscan Sun restaurant. Today, I have something very important to tell you." My voice trembled a little, but I tried to remain calm. "My wife, Sarah, has betrayed me, betrayed our marriage. She has been having an affair with my head chef, Jean-Pierre." As soon as I finished speaking, there was an uproar in the square. People were talking and pointing. Sarah's face instantly turned pale. She looked at me in disbelief, her eyes full of shock and anger. Jean-Pierre was also stunned. He stood in the crowd, his face pale, not knowing what to do. I ignored the reactions of the people around me and continued, "I have evidence that Sarah and Jean-Pierre have been secretly seeing each other behind my back for 6 months. They often made eyes at each other in the restaurant, secretly went on dates, and even went to motels together. I then signaled to Dave to project the prepared video and text messages onto the screen next to the stage. On the screen, the video of Sarah and Jean-Pierre entering the motel was playing. Although the video was a little blurry, people could clearly identify the protagonists as Sarah and Jean-Pierre. The screen also showed the ambiguous text messages between Sarah and Jean-Pierre. The content of the messages was indecent, full of eroticism and provocation. The people in the square were completely enraged. They pointed and gossiped about Sarah and Jean-Pierre, and some even started shouting insults at them. Sarah could no longer bear it, and she rushed onto the stage, trying to snatch the microphone from me. "Mark, are you crazy? Why are you doing this? Why are you humiliating me in front of all these people?" Sarah screamed, her voice full of anger and despair. "Humiliating you?" I sneered. "Sarah, you have the nerve to say I'm humiliating you? Who betrayed our marriage first? Who was the one who cuckolded me first? After what you've done, do you really think I shouldn't say anything?" "Mark, let me explain, it's not what you think." Sarah tried to defend herself. "Explain?" I interrupted her. "Sarah, the evidence is clear. What is there to explain? The videos and text messages are here. Do you still have an excuse?" Sarah was speechless. She knew that it was all over. Her shameful deeds had been made public by me, and she could no longer deny them. Jean-Pierre also came up to her, trying to take her away, but she shook his hand off. "Jean-Pierre, you bastard!" Sarah shouted at Jean-Pierre, "It's all your fault. You've ruined my reputation." Jean-Pierre was furious at Sarah's abuse, and his face turned even more ugly. He lowered his head and didn't dare say a word. I watched the farce unfold before me with a sense of satisfaction. This was exactly what I wanted. I wanted Sarah and Jean-Pierre to be disgraced, to pay for their affair. After the food festival, business at our restaurant plummeted. Customers canceled their reservations, and the staff became increasingly anxious. Sarah and Jean-Pierre's affair became the biggest scandal in the Napa Valley, and people's impression of our restaurant became very bad. Sarah left the restaurant and also left the house. She moved to San Francisco and started a new life. Jean-Pierre also resigned. He left Napa Valley, and I don't know where he went. Our marriage also came to an end. Sarah filed for divorce, and I agreed. The divorce process was painful. We argued many times over the division of property and the ownership of the restaurant. In the end, I lost the Tuscan Sun. I had to sell it to pay the lawyer's fees and compensate Sarah. I had nothing left. I lost my wife, my restaurant, my business, everything. I moved into a small apartment and started living alone. Every day I felt lonely and empty, and I didn't know what to do with my future. One day, my friend Dave came to visit me. He was very worried when he saw how depressed I was. "Mark, I know you're suffering right now, but you can't keep going like this," Dave said, trying to persuade me. "Life goes on, and you have to pull yourself together." "Dave, I've got nothing left. How can I pull myself together?" I said bitterly. "Mark, you still have me and your friends. We will always support you," Dave said, patting me on the shoulder. "And you're still young, so you can start again. Maybe losing Tuscan Sun is actually an opportunity for you." Dave's words gave me a little comfort. Maybe he was right. Maybe losing everything was really an opportunity for me to start again. I began to try to pull myself together. I started going to the gym, reading, and learning new skills. I began to reevaluate my life and think about the future. I realized that I couldn't keep living in the past. I had to let go of the past and embrace a new life. Although Sarah's betrayal had caused me tremendous pain, I had also learned a lesson. I understood that marriage was no joke and that there was a price to pay for betraying it. Sarah eventually paid the price. She lost her marriage, her career, her reputation, everything. I know that my revenge plan will ultimately hurt not only Sarah and Jean-Pierre, but also myself. but I have no regrets about my choice. If I were given the chance again, I would do the same. Because there are some things that are intolerable. Betraying a marriage is one of them. Life goes on, and I don't know what the future holds for me. But I do know that I will go on with strength. I will start again and find my own new sunshine. If you have also experienced betrayal and pain, please don't give up hope. Life is always full of hope, and if you are willing to look for it, you will definitely find your own sunshine. Thank you for watching today's video. If you like my story, please subscribe to my channel, and I will continue to update more exciting stories.